The introduction of a new type of education helped by the viruses or the virus pandemics. Teachers are now having to learn different ways to educate their students outside of the classes. They've all been given lessons, or some have been given lessons by the institutions how they can do this. Others are looking at different platforms to do it as well. Therefore, you have to plan the lessons differently. So the whole structure and thinking to training or educating someone or educating is becoming different. You have to think differently. The students are also going to have to accept a different type of learning as well. So this virus has brought in a new idea of how education can be taught online outside of the class, or in particularly outside of having a teacher in front of you, because the contact between teacher and student, they're going to try to want to get rid of it. The teacher is dangerous. The teacher may have thoughts which are outside of the ideas of the state curriculum. The state curriculum is something which has been decided by politicians and adults, people in the state, in the government, the people that control our lives. And it's dictated, they've got books which dictate what needs to be taught to students in school. Now, that's information. If you control information, you control perception, because how you see the world depends on the information that you've got to see it. And depending on the perception that you have, then depends on the type of behavior that you're going to exhibit. Getting people onto platforms is quite difficult if they don't need to be on those platforms. A pandemic pushes people onto that type of platform, or a platform which is being developed. There are educational centres already which have asked the government to help them try to get their education done on platforms such as Facebook. Now, WhatsApp. Now, if you have to have children that need to use applications or telephones or computers, in this case, it's telephones, then you're bringing children into contact with these new technologies. These new technologies are like Pandora's box, because those technologies have portals that allow children to investigate things that perhaps they shouldn't be investigating, things that we might like to censor as adults. The telephone and the computer also change the way that you think. They physically change your neurons. So by making people learn in a different way, you're changing the neurons and you're changing the way that they think. A type of thought which is needed for the transhuman agenda, or at least where it is that we're going to go in the next 10, 15 years. The internet has a particular type of information on it, or a majority of information, like for instance YouTube, Facebook and other platforms. Those platforms at the moment are being censored. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to give you one type of data, and that one type of data will then give you one type of perception. Things outside of the modern media or the modern mainstream are being closed down at the moment. Education doesn't live in schools, it doesn't live in universities anymore, it's gone. What we have now are teachers which teach a mandate given to them by the government. The new push is to try to disassociate human-to-human contact for education. The mandate is in the future to have a chip in your brain which will download information, and that information will be your education, and that information will have what the government or the state or whoever is in charge at that time they want you to have. It's very important to have human-to-human contact, especially when you're educating somebody, because education isn't just about bits of paper and listening and writing. It's actually about energy as well. Education can be passed from one person to the other through energy. That's why when you go and do meditations and you become quite advanced in those types of spirituality, a teacher can pass telepathically information from himself to the student. That of course doesn't happen in schools, but it's not to say that there are some types of information which are being passed from the teacher to the student in a very humane fashion, because obviously being humans, we need to have a type of human education, and the education which is being pushed to us is an education which is technological. It's going to have a technological personality, and we being humans are not supposed to have this type of anti-empathy technological personality.